Marriage has been sold to us as salvation, a cure for loneliness, a shield against chaos, a sacred bond blessed by gods and governments alike. But strip away the white dresses, the rings, the vows spoken under vaulted ceilings, and what is left? A contract. A deal struck between two human beings, both drunk on the narcotic of desire, both convinced they've stumbled upon eternal refuge. Most marriages rot because they are built on illusion. The illusion that passion sustains itself. The illusion that love is unconditional. The illusion that another human can complete the abyss inside you. And here lies the brutal truth. The majority of marriages are doomed from the start because they are not unions of authenticity. They are collisions of projections. Freud said we do not fall in love with the other, but with the image we craft of them. Jung said our anima, our shadow, bleeds into our choice. We marry ghosts of our own psyche, then curse the flesh and blood stranger who shares our bed. Nietzsche warned love is a war, a will to power masked as devotion. He was right. Marriage too often becomes a battlefield where two egos claw at dominance while pretending it's about harmony. So hear this, marriage is not a fairy tale. It is a mirror, and that mirror will reveal everything you fear in yourself, reflected in the partner you thought was perfect. Most men are blind when they choose, stumbling into a life sentence with a woman who is not his companion, but his captor. The red flags are always there, ignored, denied, dressed up as quirks or charm. To marry without recognizing them is not romance. It is suicide. And if you think this is exaggeration, ask yourself, why are half of marriages dissolved in ash, and most of the survivors held together by fear, obligation, or the slow decay of resignation? Because men refused to see the warning signs. They mistook chains for love. They mistook emptiness for destiny. Tonight, we will tear away the mask. We will name the red flags no man should ever ignore. And once you see them, you will never look at marriage or women the same way again. The first red flag is the woman who worships comfort over truth. She is everywhere today, the woman whose highest aim is not meaning, not virtue, not even love, but safety, security, a steady stream of dopamine and validation. To her, a man is not a partner in the tragic adventure of life. He is a paycheck, a therapist, a shield against boredom. She will never say it aloud, but her devotion is to her own convenience, not to you. Schopenhauer said desire is a curse. Once satisfied, it withers, and a new hunger replaces it. Watch her carefully. Does she love you, or does she love what you provide? You will know by how she responds when your strength falters. If a single setback, a single season of struggle makes her contemptuous, she was never with you, only with the comfort you gave her. And when the day comes that another man offers more comfort, more glitter, more ease, she will abandon you without remorse. Do not underestimate this. Men throughout history have fallen not because they lacked power, but because they failed to see the parasite at their side. Rome did not collapse from invincible armies. It rotted from within, eaten alive by decadence, by softness, by those who preferred bread and circuses to the hard truth of survival. A woman enslaved to comfort will pull you into the same decay. She will destroy your will to fight, your hunger for greatness, your authenticity. And yet, this is only the first shadow. The hunger for comfort is subtle, seductive, almost invisible in the early days. But the next red flag burns far brighter and far more dangerous. It is the poison of resentment. Resentment, Nietzsche called it the sickness of the weak, the secret venom of those who cannot create, cannot conquer, cannot affirm life. A resentful woman is the most dangerous partner a man can take, because she hides her claws until it is too late. At first, her bitterness looks like passion, her complaints seem justified, her sharp tongue feels like wit, but beneath it all, she nurses a wound. The belief that the world has cheated her, that men owe her, that happiness is a debt she has yet to collect. She will not rejoice in your victories. She will quietly despise them. She will not support your growth. She will sabotage it subtly, with doubts, with guilt, with icy withdrawal. Why? Because every step you take toward your highest self exposes her own refusal to grow. Her envy metastasizes into poison, and she feeds it to you one drop at a time. Until you wake one day hollowed out, unsure why you feel guilty for simply existing. This is not mere moodiness, it is ideology. Resentment transforms love into a ledger, affection into obligation. In her world, every gesture you make is never enough. Every gift becomes a transaction. Every sacrifice is met with silence. Freud might say she projects her own unconscious self-loathing onto you. Jung would say she has married her shadow instead of confronting it. Either way, she cannot love you. She can only consume you. History is littered with men who did not see resentment's fire until it burned their lives to ash. Samson betrayed by Delilah, kings undone by whispering queens. Entire revolutions sparked not by reason, but by the festering bitterness of the masses. Resentment is a force of nature, and in marriage it is a private apocalypse. But resentment does not stand alone. Its twin walks beside it. Vanity, the woman whose mirror is her altar, and whose reflection is the only god she serves. Vanity is the altar of the hollow soul. A vain woman does not see you, not really. She sees only her reflection in your gaze. She thrives on the performance of love, not its substance. Every gesture becomes a stage, every dinner a photo shoot, every moment of intimacy filtered through the question, how does this make me look? Do not be deceived. Vanity is not mere beauty. Beauty can inspire, beauty can elevate, beauty can even redeem. But vanity corrupts beauty, chains it to a shallow cycle of hunger for attention. A vain woman is addicted to the eyes of the crowd. And here lies the danger. A man cannot compete with the faceless masses. The moment your devotion fades, the moment you are distracted, her veins will scream for the fix of validation, and she will seek it elsewhere. Evolutionary psychology tells us women evolved to draw male attention, to secure resources, to outshine rivals. But vanity in the modern age has become a drug of infinite supply. Social media, endless filters, the dopamine slot machine of likes and comments, it feeds her ego faster than you ever could. You may be her husband, but Instagram is her true lover. Jung would say this is the anima devoured by the false self, the eternal mask. Kierkegaard would call it despair disguised as glamour. And Schopenhauer, with his ruthless clarity, would remind us that beneath the painted face is the same weary cycle of desire, decay, and death. A vain woman does not build a home, she builds a stage. And sooner or later, you will discover you are not her partner, but her prop. When the curtain falls, you will be discarded like yesterday's costume. And if vanity is a stage, then the next red flag is even darker. Manipulation. The woman who makes your very soul her puppet. Manipulation. The black art of bending another's soul without him ever realizing the strings are there. This is not love, it is sorcery. The manipulative woman studies you like prey. She learns your wounds, your cravings, your secret fears. Then she wields them like weapons. Her affection is conditional, her silence strategic, her words designed not to reveal truth, but to control. Freud would say she exploits the unconscious drives you never mastered. Jung would argue she embodies your shadow, your weakness made flesh. Evolutionary psychology strips it bare. Manipulation is resource acquisition without strength, dominance achieved not by force but by deceit. And history proves its ruin. Empires undone not by swords but by whispers in the emperor's bedchamber. The manipulative woman does not fight you head-on. She erodes you. She gaslights until you doubt your own memory, withdraws affection until you beg for scraps, dangles approval like a poisoned chalice. And the deeper you drink, the more you forget who you were before she enslaved you. Her power is not love, it is leverage. And leverage is endless, because it feeds on your own surrender. She will never say what she wants outright, because directness would break the spell. Instead, she cloaks her demands in guilt, in subtle threats, in the performance of victimhood. You are always the aggressor, she always the wronged. And in defending yourself, you give her more ground, more control, more of your essence. This is the darkest alchemy of modern relationships. A man reduced to a puppet, dancing not for love, but for the illusion of peace. And when peace itself becomes another chain, despair is all that remains. But despair has another face. The next red flag is even subtler, even deadlier. The woman who lives only for distraction and fears silence more than death. Distraction is the modern drug, and some women are its perfect priests. She cannot sit in silence, cannot endure stillness, cannot face the abyss of her own soul. She must always be moving, talking, scrolling, shopping, drinking, laughing at nothing. To her, stillness is death, because in stillness the truth rises, and the truth terrifies her. Kierkegaard warned of despair disguised as amusement. Nietzsche sneered at the herd who drowned their emptiness in noise. And here she is, the woman who fears nothing more than herself. Marriage to her is not intimacy, it is entertainment. You are not her partner, you are her distraction. The moment you stop performing, stop filling the void, she grows restless, resentful, cold. Evolutionary psychology explains her root. Ancestral women survived by bonding, by chatter, by weaving social webs. But when stripped of depth, this becomes pathology. A soul addicted to endless motion, a mind incapable of reflection. She does not seek meaning, only diversion. And diversion is endless, insatiable, corrosive. In the first months, it feels intoxicating. Her energy, her laughter, her whirlwind of plans. But soon you realize there is no anchor, no depth, no grounding. She cannot face tragedy with you, cannot wrestle with existential dread, cannot sit in the dark nights of the soul. She will flee, like a child clinging to toys while the house burns. Schopenhauer would smirk. Desire itself is suffering, he said, and she is proof. She cannot suffer, so she distracts. But in refusing to suffer, she also refuses to live. And she will drag you with her there, into the shallows, until you too forget what depth ever meant. But shallowness breeds something even more poisonous: entitlement. The belief not only that life owes her, but that you do. Entitlement is the disease of our age, and in a woman it becomes a silent tyranny. She walks through life as if the universe is in her debt, as if mere existence has earned her a throne. Every gesture you give, your labor, your loyalty, your very blood, she does not see as sacrifice, but as baseline, as owed. You cannot give enough, because she begins with the premise that everything belongs to her already. Nietzsche saw this in the herd morality, the weak convincing themselves that their need is a claim on the strong. Schopenhauer saw it in desire's endless hunger. Once one craving is met, a new one arises, fiercer than the last. And psychology confirms it. Entitlement is the rotten fruit of narcissism, of insecure attachment, of a psyche that believes the self is a sun and all others mere orbiting planets. At first, you will not see it. She will charm you with gratitude, flatter you with praise, but entitlement always emerges because it cannot stay buried. It reveals itself in her fury when denied, in her cold contempt when you assert boundaries, in the way her eyes flash when you remind her that you are not her servant but her equal. And in that moment, you glimpse the truth. She does not love you. She loves the idea of owning you. History has shown us the ruin wrought by entitlement. Monarchs who bankrupted empires, queens who demanded blood to feed their vanity, mobs who devoured civilizations believing the world owed them bread and spectacle. In the microcosm of marriage, entitlement is the same force. It is parasitism disguised as partnership, tyranny cloaked in affection. But where entitlement reigns, another demon often follows: jealousy, not as fleeting emotion but as permanent state. And jealousy, once it metastasizes, becomes madness. Jealousy, the green fire that consumes not only love but reality itself. A fleeting spark of jealousy is human, even natural, but in some women it is not a spark, it is a permanent inferno. She suspects, she accuses, she interrogates. Every glance becomes betrayal, every absence becomes conspiracy. You are not her husband, you are her prisoner, chained to her paranoia. Jung would say this is shadow projection. She sees in you the faithlessness she secretly harbors. Freud would argue it is the eruption of her own unconscious fears of abandonment disguised as righteous suspicion. Evolutionary psychology explains its roots. Jealousy once protected paternity and resources, but when twisted, it becomes pathology, it becomes tyranny. This jealousy does not protect love, it strangles it. She will isolate you from friends, poison your connections, demand proof of loyalty in every breath. And when you finally bend, exhausted, she will not be appeased, because jealousy is bottomless. It feeds on itself, multiplying until the very act of breathing in peace offends her. In time, you learn a grim truth. Jealousy is not about you at all. It is about her emptiness, her lack of self-worth, her desperate attempt to control what cannot be controlled. She does not trust because she cannot. She cannot because she has no self strong enough to risk losing. Think of Othello, driven to murder by the whispers of jealousy. Think of empires undone by suspicion, kings who slaughtered allies for imagined betrayals. This is what you invite into your home when you marry a woman consumed by jealousy. It is not romance, it is slow poison. And yet, jealousy has a sister. For some women, the need is not to control you through suspicion, but to break you through chaos. And that brings us to the next red flag, the worshipper of drama. Drama, the theatre of destruction. Some women cannot live without it, for in the quiet of peace they feel the terror of their own emptiness. They ignite conflict not because it is needed, but because it feeds them. Their soul is addicted to the highs and lows of emotional warfare. Calm bores them. Stability suffocates them. They need storms. She will pick fights over nothing, twist words into daggers, sabotage moments of joy just to create scenes. To her, tears are weapons, shouting is strategy, silence is punishment. And when the dust settles, she craves the reconciliation, the kiss after the war, the apology dragged from your broken throat. It is not love, it is theatre. You are not her husband, you are her actor, trapped in an endless cycle of tragedy she scripts again and again. Psychology names it, borderline traits, unstable attachment, trauma loops replayed without end. But ideologically, it is deeper. It is the spirit of chaos dressed as intimacy. Jung would say she has married her shadow but cannot control it. Kierkegaard would call it despair, the refusal to choose selfhood, replaced with the constant flight into frenzy. Nietzsche would simply call it decadence, the intoxication of ruin. Think of Helen of Troy, whose face launched 1,000 ships. Was it beauty alone, or the chaos she embodied that set empires on fire? Think of courts undone by scheming lovers, revolutions sparked by whispers and scandals. Drama is not entertainment. It is destruction masquerading as passion. And here is the hook. A man who marries drama will mistake it for intensity. He will believe he is desired when in truth he is only fuel for the flames. But fire consumes all. Eventually it leaves nothing but ash. And when the ash settles, another mask emerges. The woman who hides not behind rage, but behind fragility. The eternal victim. The eternal victim, she drapes herself in weakness like a queen in silk. Nothing is ever her fault. Every wound is inflicted by others, every failure caused by fate, every cruelty explained away by her endless suffering. At first, you may mistake her fragility for innocence, her tears for purity, but look closer. Victimhood is her power. By being powerless, she commands. By being helpless, she enslaves. Freud saw it clearly. The victim manipulates through guilt, exploiting the superego of those who long to protect. Jung would argue she is possessed by the archetype of the wounded child, never growing, never taking responsibility, demanding the world cradle her forever. And Nietzsche would thunder with contempt. Weakness weaponized is more dangerous than strength. She will bleed you dry with her stories of betrayal, her catalogue of past hurts, her endless need for you to rescue her. And here lies the cruel twist. No matter how much you give, she cannot be healed, because healing would strip her of the only power she knows. If she were whole, she would lose the weapon of her tears. So she clings to her wounds, polishing them like jewels, wearing them like crowns. Marry this woman, and you will live as both her jailer and her slave. You will be blamed for every sorrow, condemned for every failure, crucified for every silence. And in the end, you will discover she never wanted a husband. She wanted a caretaker, a savior, a mirror to reflect her eternal suffering. But there is one final red flag, darker than all the rest. It is not comfort, not resentment, not vanity, not drama, not victimhood. It is the abyss itself, the woman who does not believe in truth at all. The most terrifying red flag of all is the woman who does not believe in truth. To her, nothing is sacred. Promises are negotiable, vows are performance, morality is flexible, and love is whatever she feels in the moment. She floats through life without anchor, without principle, without any ground deeper than desire. You cannot build a marriage on this void, because the void does not build, it devours. Nietzsche warned us, when God is dead, everything becomes permitted. But he also warned that only the strong can create values of their own. The weak, when freed from truth, collapse into nihilism. And the nihilistic woman is a chameleon. Today she swears loyalty, tomorrow she forgets. Today she plays the role of devoted partner, tomorrow she reinvents herself for the next man, the next thrill, the next ideology. Her center does not hold because there is no center. Freud would see in her the triumph of the id, pure impulse, unrestrained. Jung would see the anima possessed, a self devoured by shadow. Kierkegaard would call her despair incarnate, the refusal to commit to anything higher than the self. And history echoes with her ruin. Dynasties crumbling because one queen's word meant nothing. Families shattered because promises were only theater. This is the ultimate red flag, because it is not a flaw to be managed, but a void to be avoided. You cannot argue her into truth. You cannot love her into faith. You cannot anchor yourself to someone who floats on nothing but whim. To marry such a woman is to sign your soul over to chaos itself. So remember this, marriage is not salvation, it is risk. It is not about finding someone who excites you or flatters you or distracts you. It is about finding someone who stands in truth, who can wrestle with suffering without fleeing, who can love without consuming, who can stay when the storms rise. Most will not. Most are illusions. But if you fail to see the red flags, you will not just lose love, you will lose yourself. Never marry a woman like this.